Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Customize Your Success Summit. I am so excited to bring to you today Guy Cooper. Guy is a top-producing serial entrepreneur who has owned and operated multiple companies for over 35 years. Guy is known for his ability to create environments where business owners and employees thrive together and love it. His productivity programs reduce stress and increase output as they scale, making small and multi-level teams more profitable and fun. Like, who doesn't want both of those together? His customer service programs, they're known for increasing employee and client retention and satisfaction. Now, Guy has coached hundreds of leaders, empowering them to draw out the best in their people so the team can confidently lead initiatives without micromanagement or fear of making the wrong decision, and so that the business can grow and scale without the direct involvement of the owner. That's always a bonus too. Now, Guy knows a few things about this since he started his one-way auto service center at the age of 21. Now, he just closed it 25 years later to establish his leadership coaching and training company to wake people up and turn companies on. So, Guy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Tina, thank you for having me. It's such an honor and privilege and pleasure just in who you are and how you operate, knowing how you serve at the highest level. So thank you.
Thank you, Guy. See, and that's the thing. We were just talking before we hopped on here about connecting with amazing people and how growing your community with amazing people, it just brings about better opportunities and we get to elevate each other. So I'm super excited to share your story. And interestingly, so knowing that you started your company at 21, I'm really interested to know, what was your definition of success as you were growing up?
So my definition, both my parents basically taught me that I could do anything that I put my mind to. And we had a mantra, and I don't know where this came from, but it was good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best. So that was a mantra that we grew up with. And one way that showed up is I was in the Boy Scouts, and I was probably a low-ranking Boy Scout, like a first class. I think that's 3 ranks from starting, and never had a desire, had no desire to be an Eagle Scout. And my mom said, "Guy, I want you to be an Eagle Scout." And I'm like, "Mom, I've been in for a couple years now, and I haven't even advanced in rank, and I don't even care about that." And she said, "Do it for me." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "No, God, I'm serious. Do it for me." And I said, "Mom," I said, "Okay." Right. And so anyway, we talked about the good, better, best. So I applied myself, and my mom wanted me to become an Eagle Scout. So I broke all kind of records. That wasn't my intention, but I wanted to get the Eagle Scout, to win it for my mom, to earn it for my mom. And so I really went all out to do it and broke all kind of records where people stated it couldn't be, these awards and ranks and merit badges couldn't be earned this fast in that process. But so that was an example of that, Tina, and how that showed.
They said, "Oh, it can't be done that fast," and you said, "Huh, watch me do this."
Well, you know what? I think more than anything, it was just my focus. It wasn't like I was focusing on necessarily doing it fast, but I knew you have to earn your Eagle by the time you're 18. And I don't remember how old I was then, but I think I had maybe a year to do it. And, it takes a number of years to actually, earn everything that you need. And so I had to get on the fast track quick and focus, laser beam focus to accomplish the goal. And I saw all type of people around me that aged out. So that was probably the other thing as well. I saw people, with a couple merit badges to go, and they turned 18, and you can't do it after that. So in doing that, I knew what I was up against, and I just went after it. And it just so happens that broke records.
Well, and it seems like that's just continued in your life, right? Opening your company, opening up your radio show, opening up your leadership company. So how has success changed, the definition of it? Has it changed for you, or has it just evolved in some way?
That's a great question. So Tina, when I started my auto service, again, it wasn't to start an auto service necessarily. I mean, that wasn't the focus. The focus was I saw people getting ripped off in auto repair. Or they weren't sure if they were getting ripped off in auto repair because the service provider that was actually repairing their vehicles or their AC unit or furnace or whatever it was, they weren't communicating well. So the people that I was watching with these concerns, they didn't know where they stood. Am I getting ripped off? Am I not? Are you going to stand behind the product? Are you not?
Yeah.
And I said I could fix that. So my focus was really on serving them at the highest level. But the reason that I share that right now is this is really good having this interview now, because probably 2.5 years ago, I lost this where, and I had a buddy come to me and say, hey, man, you've ridden this bicycle for many years and you know this bicycle balance. I can see where you are and you're worrying about the problems you're going to have 2, 3, 10 years from now in this new venture that you're doing, right? Because you've been there before. No, focus on what you did in the past, how you served at the highest level, and then and watch things soar. And so, I really, I had to get back to that place. But yeah, early on, I had it really strong. I lost it a little bit and it came back. So.
And how many people can resonate with that, right? We start off, we're really gung ho, we got this fire in our belly, we're going to do it different. And then we just sort of get lost in the shuffle a little bit. And we get into the fear and the worry and the anxiety and the overwhelm and all the stuff, right? And so how great for you to have someone so close to you in your life to go, hey, man, this is not who you are. That is who you are. Get back to that.
That's right.
Right. And we
No
need
doubt.
those people in our lives. And
No
so,
doubt.
yeah, so serving at the highest level for you, it sounds like that is your definition of success when you're serving at the highest level. Would that be a fair statement?
It's definitely a fair statement. And, even in preparing for this interview, I thought about a course I teach and a product that I have. It's called The Courage. And over time, it's evolved. It was initially the courage is the way out. Then it became the courage to go beyond, the courage to lead beyond. Now it's the courage to accelerate and scale. And this is the thing for leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, oftentimes, and this is why I really haven't pushed it hard, it's inside the program. When somebody goes after what they want in my program, what I know they need is that. So I don't usually, that's not the face, of what I offer and what I do, but it's that courage. And that courage, it's really multi-level phases of courage, but there's 3 primary phases of courage, Tina. And it's the courage to first explore, to explore, who are you? What are you made for? What's your purpose? Are you moving in it, right? How could you serve people at the highest level? And explore. And as we can talk further, I'll peel this onion back and share more how that showed up in my life in that exploration process, because it's never ending, right? With the
Yeah,
betterment. And I know we share that in common as well.
we do. Absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, I love all of this. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
because
then,
it is in that exploration when you discover, right? And so for you, your whole journey has probably been an exploration of some sort. So I'd love to know what led you to shift into the coaching away from, your auto business, leading the teams and everything else, to now coaching, which is kind of what you were doing before anyway, but now that's your main focus. So what was that shift for you?
is it all right if I share some of my backstory with my auto service and how that
Yeah.
transitioned to get there? Well, and before we go there, let me just share the other 2 components in the courage. So it's
Okay.
the courage to explore, but it's also the courage to engage. Like
Mhm.
when you explore and you know where you are, what decisions are you making, where are you focusing, and having the courage to engage. Didn't think about this until just now. To get that ego, I had to move in the courage to engage in that process and commit, right? And then I had to have the courage to endure. When it's times I wanted to quit and it was a struggle, that courage to keep going and endure. And so with that stated, with my auto service, I saw again people getting ripped off or they weren't sure, and I said I can resolve that. And the way that I knew that I needed to resolve that was by allowing clients to be able to be a part of the decision-making process. So early on, I had a placard, and all my clients have it now. Is it honest? Is it done correctly? Is it taking care of the client? Was what was on my wall. And so, and I had that there where clients could completely hold me accountable in that process. Is it honest? Is it done correctly? Is it taking care of the client? And so with that, I really help clients ask the right questions, but more importantly, recognize the right answers,
Yeah.
even if they didn't think that was possible, and control the outcome. And through that process, my shop scaled. over and over. You can imagine my business was word of mouth and people loved it. And I got a lot of business from that. I did a lot of advertising, but the majority of my business was always word of mouth because of that. And with that, I started with $2,200, a little handheld toolbox called a lunchbox, and 2 jack stands. So really nothing, right? And I'm sorry. And the toolbox was my father's, Tina, right? So
Aw.
it was borrowed. But with that stated, I took every dime and put it back in the company.
Yeah.
And so, the business scaled with growth as far as clients, it scaled as far as me continually putting back into the company and having an 1,100 square foot shop, growing it to like a 4,600 square foot shop that's like a mini dealership, and doing that. I did that really well. But let me tell you what I didn't do so well.
Okay.
I took care of my employees like I took care of myself. I didn't take care of my employees like I wanted them to take care of my clients. I was stretched thin all over the place. It was tough. And so I was stretching my employees like I was stretching myself. And I built a lot of systems to really take care of the client at that level. And most shops, dealerships, national chain stores weren't really moving in that in 1986 when I did that. And so my employees would constantly say, don't take all of this. I don't, I'm going to work somewhere else. I don't want to do all of this. And then initially I had a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
And then it probably took about 15 years to crack that code. And what happened was in that process, Tina, I lost my dream. It's like, why did I even do this in the first place?
Mhm.
And, my purpose is like, what am I even doing? Right. And, we're not even going to talk about my passion because I've always been passionate, but it was a struggle. And when I cracked that code and learned how to do that, then I realized I wanted to help others do that. So I'm going to stop, but I can share with you more of even how that transition happened because it wasn't something that I planned. It's an opportunity that came forward. So.
Well, and so much in that to unpack for our folks that are listening. And I want to make sure we hit a few of those main points and that we don't lose this because like you knew when you started out, you wanted to do it different, right? You said, I want the customer to be a part of this decision-making process. I want them to understand. I don't want them to feel like they've gotten ripped off and not know why they got to spend this money to fix this and that, right? And so just from that alone, that's a totally different perspective than what most people, an experience that what most people get when they go into a car dealership and in a service center. But then along the way, like you said, it's like you were so stretched thin that you were leading your people in that same way and they were leaving, right? They're like, I can't do this. This isn't what I want. And it took a while for you to get the system down. But in those moments, that's when you're like, okay, I got to get back because you've now come back to where you started, the core of what you started, like to do it differently and to help other people to really succeed. So I'd love for you to share, like you said, in that pivotal moment when you're like, okay, I got the systems down. No, I'm not treating my employees the way that I want them to treat my customers. I'm treating them the way I'm treating myself. Before we go on to the pivotal moment, I would love for you to touch on that because I think that's a big deal for a lot of people is us as leaders, we go, well, I'm going to burn the candle at both ends, but I want my people to take care of themselves. No, they see what you're doing and that's what they emulate. And that's how they treat your customers as well. Right. So if you could go into a little bit about how did you notice that that was an issue and how did you shift that?
Great question. Well, one, I really have to share with you, I went from a place of moving in achievement, trying to achieve, to realizing that I really needed to transform and figure out what is my dream, what is my purpose, what is my passion, and help others, my team see the same. And the other thing that I had to learn how to do is I had to learn how to really include my team in the decision process. And this is one of the things that I see go awry a lot. And even as I state that, let me back up a little bit. So one, you know what? I'm going to share this like this. Let me share how the achievement the track that I was on,
Yeah,
and how that transition happened. And then I'll share, what I've really learned in that process. So what happened was I had a radio station salesperson come to sell me airtime. And she heard how I was sharing with my clients and how my team was sharing with my clients. And she called her boss and she's like, you have to come hear this guy. The way he makes the client a part of the decision-making process. How's this even possible? You have to come hear him. And so he came to me and he said, Guy, we really need you on the air. We'd love for you to just come and do a show on the air. And so, after we talked about it and courted for a little bit, he came and bought me a contract and said, here's the agreement. It'll be $200,000 basically for you to be on the air. And I said, whoa, 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 you want me on the air, right? Then you're going to provide the platform and I'm going to provide the content, right? Anyway, that birthed the Healthy Car Guy, which was started as a radio show and became an educational platform. But the bottom line is this. What happened was I had that show where I started educating consumers abroad, just really how to hold their service providers accountable. Then I had a number of service providers come to me and say, hey, would you teach me, how to have my client hold me accountable? Because I can see the value in that. And I saw so many shop owners that just were moving in integrity and wanted to do it right. And they were losing their shirt trying to take care of their people, trying to take care of their clients. And they were still, because the automotive industry, it can be an antagonistic, in general type of industry where people feel like you're going to rip them off before they rip you off. And so to deal with that. So, which really made what I did stand out. And I don't know that that was planned, but it made it stand out. And I saw people just really, business owners, just really in a place where they lost their dream, purpose, and passion as well. And I wanted to help them fix that, though I was doing a radio show to actually educate consumers on how to ask the right questions, recognize the right answers, and control the outcome.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to pause for a minute so you can share, but then I'm going to finish sharing, because I went to this achievement and then something changed, shifted. And I can share that as well. If you want me to keep
No,
it.
I would love for you to share that, because as we progress into our career, a lot of us are checking the box, right? The achievement boxes. I hit this milestone, I hit this milestone. That must mean that I'm going to be successful. I've got the bank account, I got the house, I got the 2.5 kids and the white picket fence, right? And we're like, okay, I'm successful, but why do I still feel like there's something else, right? Why I'm not fulfilled? I should be happy, but I'm not. So what is going on here? So I'd love for you to share your journey when you transitioned, because I think that's key for a lot of people that are listening.
That's outstanding. I think it is as well. So for me, what happened was, so I had this show. This show was morphing into an educational platform where I was educating not just consumers now, but I was having forums, educating service providers and consumers, and having them on panels where the service providers could ask consumers questions and hold everybody accountable. And that was growing. And my shop obviously was growing, because that was obviously marketing for my shop. So that was blowing up. And I had, I'd always invested back in the business. To be honest, I don't even know if I really knew how to do, to take on investors. I didn't at that time, right? And acquire funding and that type of thing, because I'd always grew my business just reinvesting in it. And so at that point, I had a franchise model that I always wanted to launch. And this franchise model wasn't just an auto service, but it was a car care center. It was this car care center that had a car wash. Kinko's FedEx was interested. FedEx was interested. And this car care center would have complementing services. So as you got your vehicle repaired, right, you could actually do other business in, in the car care center as well. Well, this was a franchise model that many people loved and wanted to invest in, because in this model, unlike, if I could say this, unlike the way how Walmart's footprint and business plan, but we'd have to admit that when Walmart went into a town or an area, it may not have been as economically feasible for the mom and pops of 25 years, 50 years, 100 years, 200 years to be able to sustain, the Walmart model in that area. So in seeing that, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to actually take, when we opened up our car care centers, right, I had a covenant and an agreement with complementing businesses that first wanted to move in integrity and take care of the client properly, right? I would help them be more profitable, because I had a proven method that was working as I was, sharing that with my service providers on the air. And so
Yeah.
people loved this concept. And so I had this model, this franchise model that was wonderful. So, at that point, honestly, I had a golden parachute. My shop is flourishing. I have this model that's really working, retirement, savings, everything's wonderful, right? But this is what happened. So December 31st, 2007, my daughter was born 1 pound, 11 ounces, right? She was so small, she'd fit in the palm of my hand, right? Her skin was almost translucent. You could almost see organs. And it was a very scary time because she was in the hospital for 101 days. And every day when we went to the hospital, going to the NICU, leaving, we saw mothers taking their children home. And it would break my wife's heart just seeing, all these mothers continually just taking their babies home, and she couldn't take her baby home. So for 101 days, that was really tough. And about 2.5 months later, Tina, I had a major car accident. I was test driving the client's car with the client. We were sitting at a light, and somebody was racing. We didn't see him, slammed in the back of us, knocked us unconscious. It should have been fatal for both of us, knocking the rear bumper to the back seat. About 3 months after that, the stock market crashed and the housing market collapsed in 2008 that I'm sure we all know about, right? So it was a whirlwind. And, to add insult to injury, I'd always had wonderful insurance. I believe in coverages like that. Wonderful shop insurance, garage keepers liability, wonderful for years. At that point, I had been in business for 22 years. And I was in a networking group where a guy wanted me to do moving his insurance. It was a national brand, great insurance, but it's like, no, I've been with the same insurance company for 22 years. And he's like, please. And so, anyway, we went back and forth, and I saw his insurance, was good. It was a wonderful national brand. And so I decided to do it. But as long as this happens, obviously before, my renew date comes up. So we were, it ended up being, it was initially, like several months before the renew date. By the time it was all said and done, it was weeks before the renew date. And, it was almost complete, but I'm like, if we don't get this done, I'm going to stay. Anyway, I ended up moving with this insurance. And then the car accident happened like a couple weeks after that took place, right? So when the car accident happened, when I was in the hospital and woke up from being unconscious, immediately I told my wife, I said, hey, we need to call the insurance agent and let him know that, we just had an accident. Come to find out, it was one addendum that wasn't signed. He got out of it, and my insurance had just, my renew date had just missed like a week and a half before that, prior to that. So I didn't have shop insurance. Now on a client's car that was almost new. I'm driving it, though it wasn't my fault, right? So anyway, all those things happened. It was a whirlwind. It took all of our savings, right? I had brain bruising where, they said, hey, guy, you can't go to your shop. And it's like, I'm a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur. There's no way, that I'm not doing that. So, I'm still going with migraine headaches. Everything's gone. And it's like, at this point, I didn't know how I was going to make it. Again, I said I was in business 22 years. And it didn't make sense really to go on. And when I really looked at it, and I looked at all that was happening and all that I had achieved, it was for the first time that Tina, I really got to the place where I was honest with myself. I wouldn't even let myself look at it before that, because it's like, I have all these people that are dependent on me and that I have to take care, make sure they're good, and, all this responsibility. So, I wouldn't allow myself, what I would call, be weak to even look at what I really wanted. But what it made me do was it made me look at, man, you're achieving all of this, but this is not what I want. I don't want this at all. I almost want to say, I don't know if I hated it, but it's not what I wanted. And I felt walled in. And I realized what I really wanted was I wanted to help business owners, leaders, entrepreneurs like myself that were struggling, where their people had more options than my people had more options than I did. And so do so many others. I wanted to help them get their dream back. right? And recapture their purpose, right? And recover their passion and be able to move in that. And so I realized that's where I needed to be. And so I came home, as soon as I realized that and told my wife, Janice, I'd like to hold on for 3 more years because for whatever reason, I want to tout that I've been in business for 25 years, right? But I want to hold on for 3 years and then I want to launch an executive coaching company. So I held on for 3 years, never really fully recovered, ended up selling my book of business to a buddy of mine who had a shop and auctioned off hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s worth of equipment for probably about $10,000, barely able to pay the debt service on the lease that I had on the building. But you know what? The arbitrage was from around my neck and I was free.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes. And
that's what
it's
happened with me.
fascinating to me how life, the universe, life, God, whatever you subscribe to,
Yep.
can go, hey, you wake up. Because we get on this trajectory and it's like it's going so fast. We're just running on the hamster wheel to keep up and we lose sight of what is most important to us. And I'm so grateful that it worked out the way that it did for you, that your daughter did come home. Yes.
Perfect health.
Okay.
15 now, perfect health.
Okay, wonderful. And that, the car wreck, it's like it was a snowball that just started, but it was that wake-up call, right? And I think for a lot of people, that wake-up call, we look back on in the moment, we're like, what is this? This is not what I was going after. But when we look back on it, we realize that was what we needed to change and to shift. But for a lot of people, I think that's the part of the work that you and I do is we try to get to them before that point happens to go, no, it's not weak for you to look at what do I really want to do? I mean, we have one life. We don't, we might reincarnate as somebody else, whatever you believe, I don't know. But as me in my flesh and blood right now, this is my shot, right? And this is your shot to do what is in our heart. And so what I would ask you as we wrap this up is, what would you share with someone who's really kind of feeling like they're at that crossroads? Like, I checked all the boxes, I did all the right things to be quote unquote successful, and I still feel like there's something greater, there's something bigger, something different for me. What would you share with them is most important for them to focus on?
The first thing that I would say that has to happen is you really have to have a vision. And we all have one. Right? We all have a vision of what we'd like to get done and where we'd like to be. But let's just talk about the genesis of vision first. And I want to give you 2 Bible scriptures, right? And the second one I'm going to quote to you. The first one is Habakkuk 1:1. It really talks about the genesis of vision. And the genesis of vision is problem. You have like a problem. You have something that you see that's a real concern or something that you'd like to do in the world and make a difference, right? It's this overarching thing that resonates with you, and you can talk to many people about it and they don't even get it, but you have to do something about it, right? That's the beginning of vision. But the second stage of vision is Habakkuk 2:2, to write that vision and make it plain so that those who read it can run. And that's something that I've always done. I didn't know Habakkuk 2:1 when I started, but I knew Habakkuk 2:2 to write it and make it plain. And all the systems that I've ever created, I've always written the vision and made it plain so that anybody that was involved in that process, they could know what mattered. They can know, this is the scoreboard. That's the KPI, key performance indicator, or, component that matters most. This is how you drive it. And to make it that plain where they knew what to do. So that's the first thing that I would say has to happen, Tina. The second thing that I would say has to happen is you really need to move in 3 components. How do I improve relationships, set better expectations, and manage time? And with those 3, if you moved in 2 components, you'll have all 3. Any 2. If you have better relationships, or you establish better relationships and you set better expectations, you'll have more time.
Yep.
If you manage your time well and you manage expectations well, you'll have better relationships. So I state that to say, if you do any 2 components, you'll have all 3. So imagine if you do all 3. The other, and I realize, I don't need to give but one, but if I could, is it all right for me to share another?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So often, and I think I heard Tony Robbins state this probably first, we don't necessarily always look at life, news, and all the input that we receive as it is. We see it worse than it is, right?
Mm.
But if we could get to the place where we can see things as they are, as a problem, we see a problem, what action or challenge, or what action, or innovation are you considering in that process? What challenges will you face? Who else should be involved? See it as it is, not worse than it is, right? And then let's stop complaining and take action. It's so easy for us to look at others and say they're always complaining and not taking action, right? But if we're honest about it, we're all in that place at some level where we're doing that. And the third is, it's not about getting more information. As powerful as this is and what we're doing right now in this interview, you already have things in you that you know to do that could transform your life, right? So let's stop getting obese by taking in more and more and more information and apply the 1%, 1 degree, 1 yard action that needs to happen to change the game. When you have to go to the doctor, you schedule the appointment, schedule the action that you need to take and take it.
Yes,
Concurrently.
absolutely. Absolutely. And Guy, as you're sharing that, like you shared your story about your daughter. I think we all have a crossroads story like that. And for me, my son was born the same weight as your daughter, and he did not make it. And that's okay. It happens, right? I mean, that's life. And the more that we talk about these things, the more other people are like, oh, that's happened to you too. Oh my gosh, I thought I was by myself. Right. And we have this taboo around these topics. But in that same circumstance, right, that I was pregnant immediately after that with my daughter, and she's beautiful and amazing and 11, and she's spunky and I love her. And 6 months later, they're like, we got to take your gallbladder out. I'm like, okay. 6 months after that, you have cancer. I'm like, what? Like, what's happening in this world? Right? Universe was screaming at me, stop the chase. You've got to take care of yourself. And when you say schedule that appointment, I almost didn't. Like, I had already missed so much work and I had so much going on where I was like, I don't have time to go to the doctor again. Like, I'm not doing this. And then there was something inside when we're talking about, like, it's not all about the information. Trust your gut, trust your intuition. That was what it was for me. My intuition said, get your butt in the car and go to this thing. And so I did. And thankfully I did, because they told me, they're like, when they found it, they said, look, we don't normally find this. This isn't a place and the type that we don't usually see until it's too late. And they said, if we don't get this out, you'll be dead in 10 years. And that was 11 years ago. So, I mean, really, when you're sharing about your situation, you're like, no, I got the wake up call and I needed to make the shift. For me, that was my wake up call. It was, okay, life is screaming at me. Time out, chica, like, get your stuff together, right? And then we go on a journey to figure out, how do I do this better? Like, because I wasn't willing to give up success in my career, whatever my definition is, right? It should be our own definition. And I wanted the well-being. I wanted it all. I'm like, I want it all. And there's got to be a better way. And there is. And that's the journey I'm on. It's the journey you're on. And it's the journey that we get to share with other people who are listening, to give them a sense of, yeah, it's possible. But you got to know what you want. And you've got to know what's special about you. And you get to trust your intuition on that instead of checking the box and listening to everybody else's expectations, because it's your life.
No doubt. Well stated.
So, and I thank you so much for just sharing your story, right, on this platform, because who knows who's listening at this point going, it's time for me. It's time for me to get my stuff together and make my shift and make my mark in the world the way that I want it to be done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So thanks so much, Guy. I so appreciate you and sharing your story. And I can't wait for folks to reach out. Like, literally, if you're resonating with what Guy is saying, you're resonating with what I'm saying, reach out. Like, we are just a plethora of resources together with our communities. That's the other thing I didn't mention. Guy and I met because we're in another coaching community together, like learning how to do things better in different ways. And so expand your community, reach out, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. And we will see you on the next interview. Take care, everyone.
Okay. All right.